Hi friends, it's me, Miss Chacon. We are back. Today is Monday. I hope you all had a great weekend. I just wanted to start off this video by saying that I'm so happy that we're all safe, we're all well, and we're all continuing to learn. So this week is going to be a great week. And if you do not know what we're doing this week and you want to know, you can always go to Class Dojo and see here we have 5-4 plans because today is May 4th. So 5-4, and we're going to look up here. And if you see, we have our plans for this week. So today we are going, for our language arts video, we are going to be learning about Little Red Riding Hood. But remember last week for Storytime Monday, we had Seriously Cinderella Was So Annoying, and we learned the other side of the story? Well, today for Storytime Monday, we are going to be learning about the other side of the story for Little Red Riding Hood. So that's going to be fun. And for math, in our other video for today, we'll be doing making picture graphs, okay? All right, so let's get started. What I want to do first before we start is just remind you, please check Class Dojo in the morning and in the night, just in case I post anything. Also, just a reminder for your parents, so on the weekends, Class Dojo has this thing where you can't message me on the weekends just because it's quiet hours, because on the weekends we all want to have fun, we don't want to think about school. So on Saturday and Sunday, I won't be able to be messaged, but it's okay because Monday all the way to Friday, you can message me on Class Dojo, you can post on you can post on your portfolios, you can email whatever you want. But on Saturday and Sunday, those are 2 days where those are quiet hours so that you don't have to think about school and I can start planning for the next week, okay? All right, so that's it. And if you miss any videos, you can just go back to our YouTube page and watch these videos, okay? All right, so let's get started. So when you think of Little Red Riding Hood, I'm sure you think of this girl, right? You think of a pretty little girl and a big bad wolf. That's the story we hear all the time. All the time. We hear about Little Red Riding Hood and the big bad wolf. So what we're going to do first is we're going to read the regular story, the story that we always hear. Then we're going to read, Honestly, Red Riding Hood was rotten. And do you remember how Seriously Cinderella Was So Annoying? That story was told from the wicked stepmother. So we learned about her point of view. Remember, point of view is how somebody sees the world. So I see the world differently than you see the world. You see the world as a 6 or 7-year-old. I see the world as a first grade teacher. So we see things so differently, but we're all in room 47. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to show you that each person sees something differently, but that is okay. All right? So what we're going to do first is we're going to read Little Red Riding Hood, the original version, okay? So this version is by Charles Perrault. And this is just, okay. Once upon a time, now let's look at this pretty house. Once upon a time, there was a young girl who lived in a village near the woods with her mother and father. Every so often, they would go travel to visit their grandmother on the other side of the woods. The young girl's grandmother always doted on her and gave her presents when she visited. Now, doted means she always went, "Oh, you're so cute, Little Red Riding Hood, I love you so much." She always spoiled her and treated her so nice, just like I'm sure your grandparents do too. The best present her grandmother gave her was a little red riding cape with a little red hood. She wore it everywhere she went, and soon enough, everyone was calling her Little Red Riding Hood. One day, Little Red Riding Hood's mother called to her and said, "Your grandmother is not feeling well. Why don't you go for a visit and take her some treats to brighten her day?" "I would love to," replied Little Red Riding Hood. So Little Riding Hood set out on the path to her grandmother's house. We all know where this story goes. As Little Red Riding Hood entered the woods, a wolf approached her. Since she did not know that he would likely eat her up, she was not afraid of him. So they started to talk. Ooh, they start to talk to a wolf. She started to talk to a wolf in the woods. That's not good. "Hello, little girl," said the wolf. "Hello," said Little Red Riding Hood. "What are you doing? Where are you going all by yourself?" "Oh, I'm headed to my grandmother's house. I'm going to take her some treats." "That is so very kind of you," said the wolf. "Pray tell me, where does your grandmother live?" "She lives in the first cottage along the path, just beyond the river." She told the wolf where her grandmother lived. That's something we never do. You never tell a stranger where you live, and you never stop to talk to them. You don't stop to talk to them. Little Red Riding Hood told the wolf, so she told him where he lived. "You know what your grandmother would love?" the wolf asked, as he was concocting a plan. He is going like this. He is going, Go like this with me, my friends. You're going. This means he is getting a plan. He's like, ooh, he's being sneaky. Usually in fairy tales, the wolf is the sneaky person or the bad guy. "You should pick her some wildflowers to make a bouquet." "That is a splendid idea," replied Little Red Riding Hood. And so she began wandering through the woods, looking for the prettiest flowers she could find. That was exactly what the wolf wanted. Now he could get a head start and arrive at her grandmother's house first. So what the wolf did is he distracted her and said, "You pick flowers." And while she was picking flowers, the wolf wanted to get to the grandmother's house first. Ooh, I wonder what happens. Sorry about that, my friends. I dropped something. When the wolf arrived at grandmother's house, he knocked on the door. "Who's there?" grandmother asked. "It's your granddaughter," the wolf replied in a high-pitched voice, trying to sound like Little Red Riding Hood. "I have some nice treats for you." "Oh, how nice," said grandmother. "Pull the latch, my dear, and come on in." The wolf burst into the room and tried to grab grandmother, but she was surprisingly quick on her feet and managed to get away. She immediately ran off to get help. "Oh well," thought the wolf, "I can still wait for the little girl." He looked around for one of grandmother's nightgowns and he concocted a plan. So he was planning again. He was going, A short while later, Little Red Riding Hood came to the door. When he heard the knock, the wolf once again disguised his voice, this time to sound like grandmother. "Who is it?" "It's me, Little Red Riding Hood," she replied. "Pull the latch and come in, dear child," the wolf said. Little Riding Hood noticed that it did not sound like her grandmother, so touch your ears. And remember, we need to listen to sound. Remember our senses, so we touch, what we see, what we feel, what we can taste. So Red Riding Hood is using her senses and thinking, she doesn't sound like grandma. That doesn't feel right. That doesn't sound right. So she's using her ears and her hearing to see if the wolf, to see if that's really her grandmother. So Red Riding Hood noticed it did not sound like her grandmother, but she thought perhaps her cold had changed her voice. So she went inside. She approached her grandmother's bed and noticed she did not look like herself either. "Grandmother, what big arms you have." "All the better to hug you with," the wolf replied. "Grandmother, what big ears you have." "All the better to hear you with." "Grandmother, what big eyes you have." "All the better to see you with." "Grandmother, what big teeth you have." "All the better to eat you up with." And with that, the wolf jumped out of the bed and chased after Little Red Riding Hood. Fortunately, just then, Grandmother returned with some help from a woodcutter who was working nearby in the forest. The three of them chased the wolf out of the house and all the way to the river. The wolf was running so fast, he fell right into the river, and the water carried him far, far away, and they never saw him again. Little Red Riding Hood and her grandmother thanked the woodcutter and offered to share their treats as they ate cake to celebrate. Little Red Riding Hood promised them that she would never talk to a wolf again. The end. Okay, so that's the end of the original version. This is the story that we all know and love. Now I want to read to you, "Honestly, Red Riding Hood was rotten." So let's listen.
Honestly, Red Riding Hood was rotten. The story of Little Red Riding Hood, as told by The Wolf, by Trisha Speed Chacon, illustrated by Gerald Gurley.
So this story is told by the wolf. This story is not told by Little Red Riding Hood.
Chomp, chomp. Oh, I'm sorry. I was just finishing my lunch. My name's Wolf, Big Bad Wolf. You may have heard the story of Little Red Riding Hood, about a girl and her granny. Seems everyone has. My tale is different. Did I say tale? I meant tail.
So when he says my tale is different, a tale, T-A-L-E, means tale like a story. But T-A-I-L means like an animal tale. So he said tale and he meant, oh wait, not like an animal tale, like a story. My story is different, not my tale is different. Okay, let's keep reading.
Once upon a time, I ran out of food. Completely. The cupboards were bare. The freezer, too. And I'd eaten every last vegetable and fruit in the garden. Every one. Other wolves might have lunched on little forest critters. Chipmunks, bunnies, squirrels. But I'm a vegetarian.
What? A vegetarian is being a vegetarian means that you do not eat meat. Being a vegetarian means that you only eat vegetables. Now, in the other story right here, the wolf was trying to eat Granny and Little Red Riding Hood. He was eating people, so he was not a vegetarian. But the wolf is saying, I don't eat people. I'm a vegetarian. I eat vegetables.
That's right. I don't eat meat. Well, I try not to. I love apples. Honey crisp, pink lady, golden delicious, any kind, really.
Ooh.
But sadly, it was a long time until apple harvest. I hadn't eaten in weeks. My stomach growled and howled.
Aww.
It moaned and groaned. It even roared. Then my nose took over. Sniff, sniff. I took a whiff. What was it? A girl. Sniff, sniff. I took a whiff. What was it? Cake. Butter. In this forest, I had to investigate.
Okay, so he sniffed and he smelled a girl. Then he sniffed and he smelled the cake. So do you think that the wolf wants to eat the girl or the cake? Remember, the wolf is a vegetarian, so he doesn't like meat. He only likes veggies. So if we were thinking of this story, then maybe maybe he wants to eat the girl. But in this story, maybe he's talking about eating the cake. We don't know.
And there she was, Little Red Riding Hood. She looked as plump and juicy as a big sweet apple. Little Red waved her cape. "Isn't it pretty?" she said. "Yeah," I said. "Aren't I pretty?" she said. Was she admiring herself in that puddle?
So Little Red Riding Hood was looking at herself in the puddle and saying, "I'm so pretty." And the wolf looks at her and says, "Ooh, she looks like an apple." And remember, the wolf loves apples.
"With this cape," she said, "I'm even prettier than usual." Boy, someone sure was full of herself. My stomach growled.
So, being full of yourself means that you're always looking in the mirror and saying, "I'm so beautiful. So, I'm so amazing. I'm so awesome." That's what being full of yourself is. Being too proud. So, let's keep reading.
Little Red twirled a strand of hair. "Mother says the cape looks grand with my skin. My skin shines like pearls." Or the meat of a ripe apple, I thought, licking my chops. Remember, I hadn't eaten in weeks. Time to chop.
So, do you think the wolf is saying that is he going to eat Little Red Riding Hood? I don't know this story. Oh no.
But then Little Red said, "I can't wait until Granny sees how pretty I am today. I'm bringing her cake and butter from my mother." My stomach howled. 2 meals. I thought, Granny for breakfast, Little Red for lunch, and cake and butter for dessert.
No.
"Where does Granny live?" I asked. Little Red pointed. "Down there, in the clearing, the brown house." I knew that house, and I had a plan.
Oh, so far this story seems the same as this story. He's distracting her. But I think the only thing that's different between this story and this story is that the wolf is a vegetarian, but he's so hungry that he's thinking maybe I should eat Little Red Riding Hood because I'm just so hungry. I haven't eaten in weeks.
"Let's play a game," I said. Little Red smiled. "I'm awesome at games." "I bet you are," I said. "You take this path, I'll take that path, and let's see who arrives at Granny's first." "I will," she said. "I'm the prettiest and the fastest." "I bet you are," I said. My stomach moaned. Before it groaned, I ran. No one knows the forest like I do. I chose the shorter path.
Let's see.
Sniff, sniff. I took a whiff. What was it? Apple air freshener?
Ooh.
Tap, tap. I knocked on the door. "Who's there?" called out a voice. "Your granddaughter," I squeaked. "I've brought you cake and butter from Mother." "Door's open," Granny said.
Oh no! He's gonna eat Granny.
Granny tugged at her nightcap. "Green," she said. "Isn't it pretty?" Pretty like a Granny Smith apple, I thought. "Aren't I pretty?" Granny said. You must have heard the saying, "The apple doesn't fall far from the tree." Well, it's true.
So when he said the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, it means that you're kind of like your parents or your grandparents. So if your parents are a tree, like remember when we did that the family tree, how your parents were at the top and you were all the way at the bottom. Well, if your parents were an apple tree and the apple fell off, and that's you, the apple didn't fall far because you're just like your parents. So the wolf is saying the apple didn't fall far from the tree because Little Red is just like Granny. Little Red kept saying, "Oh, I'm the prettiest. Oh, I'm the fastest. Oh, I'm the smartest." And now look at Granny. Granny's saying, "Aren't I pretty?" Granny's looking in the mirror. Look at Granny. She has all these pictures of herself on the wall saying, "Oh, I'm so beautiful. I'm so pretty." So the wolf thinks that they're full of themselves. They have too many. They say they're the best at everything. I'm the prettiest, I'm the fastest, I'm the smartest, I'm the best. So let's keep reading. Let's see what happens.
My stomach roared. What's that noise? Granny asked. Chomp, chomp. I had to eat her. She was no Macintosh apple, but not too bad. I still felt hungry.
He ate Granny. In the other book, he didn't eat Granny. Granny got away, but oh no, he ate Granny. Let's see what happens next.
Tap, tap. Little Red knocked on the door. Who's there? I called out, crawling into Granny's bed.
Your granddaughter,
Little Red said.
I've brought you cake and butter from Mother.
Door's open, I said. Little Red walked in and caught a glimpse of herself in the mirror.
Isn't my cape pretty, Granny?
She said.
Aren't I pretty?
I clenched my teeth.
So she's like, "I'm pretty. I'm so pretty."
Granny,
Little Red said.
What deep, dark eyes I have.
Mm-hmm, I said. The color of apple seeds.
Did you hear that? So on this story over here, Little Red was saying, "What big eyes you have." She's looking at the wolf and saying, "What big eyes you have." Over here, Little Red Riding Hood is looking in the mirror and saying, "Look how big my eyes are, how beautiful my eyes are." She's not looking at the wolf, so she can't see him. And the wolf is thinking, "She looks like an apple." Let's keep reading.
Granny,
She said.
what perfect ears I have.
Mm-hmm, I said. Shaped like sharply cut apple slices.
So over here, she's looking at her ears. Again, she's looking at hers. "Look how beautiful my ears are." In the other book, the Little Red Riding Hood says, "What big ears you have." Ears, remember? Ears. She was looking at him. Here she's like, "Oh, my ears are so beautiful." Let's keep reading.
Granny,
She said.
what pretty red lips I have.
Mm-hmm, I said. Red delicious.
See, so they're thinking red. She looks like an apple. So she's looking at her lips, but over here, she was looking at his teeth. So Red Riding Hood is a really different in this story because she seems more like she wants to know. This Red Riding Hood is using her senses. She's being smart. She's saying, "Okay, I know I'm using my eyes and I see that his eyes are too big. His ears are too big. His teeth are too big." Over here, this Red Riding Hood is like, "Oh, look how my eyes are beautiful. Look how pretty my teeth are and my ears are." I think this Red Riding Hood is very different.
Granny,
She said.
what lovely skin I have.
Oh, let's see.
Chomp, chomp. I ate her up. What can I say? Things look different when you're hungry. She was no Fuji or Crispin apple. In fact, to be honest, she was a bit rotten. But she was better than nothing. Plus, I got dessert.
So, in this story, Red Riding Hood was rotten because she tasted like a rotten apple. And the wolf is saying, oh no, she was rotten. I didn't like it. Over here, the wolf ended up in the river. He is like all the way over there. And Red Riding Hood and Grandma didn't get eaten. So let's think about it. It says, think about it. Read a classic version of Little Red Riding Hood. Now look at the big bad wolf's version of the story. So what was different that happened in Red Riding Hood's version and the wolf's version? Well, the wolf is saying, I'm a vegetarian, but I haven't eaten in so long. There were no vegetables. I had to eat. Let's keep reading. If it had been apple season, do you think Wolf would have eaten Little Red and her grandma? Why or why not? So do you think that the wolf would have eaten Grandma and Little Red if it had been apple season and he would have been able to eat a fruit or a vegetable? Because, oh, there's apples there. I don't need to be eating meat. I don't need that. So, what we're going to do now is I want you to think about this. Who told the truth? We have Little Red Riding Hood and the wolf. So, these are two different versions. What really happened, my friends? So over here, the wolf is not a vegetarian, and Little Red Riding Hood is smart. She's like, oh, I'm using my eyes, and I'm being smart, and I'm using my ears, and I know that the big bad wolf is here because his arms are so big, his ears are huge, and he's got huge teeth. That's not my grandma. The Little Red Riding Hood and Grandma were smart in this story. So in this story, it's Little Red Riding Hood's version. She's like, I didn't get eaten. I was smart. I used my eyes, my ears, and I knew that it was the big bad wolf. And the big bad wolf left, and we lived happily ever after. In this version, it's very different. This version, the big bad wolf said she was not that smart. She was rotten. She was always looking at herself, and her grandma was always like, I'm so pretty, and Red Riding Hood was, I'm so pretty. Red Riding Hood was so busy looking at herself, looking in the mirror, she never looked at the wolf, and that's why she got eaten. The same thing with Granny. Granny got eaten because she was looking at herself in the mirror and saying, don't I look pretty and green? So, who do you think is telling the truth? Do you think Little Red Riding Hood is telling the truth, saying that she was being smart and the woodsman came? Because in this story, there's a woodsman. In this story, there is no woodsman. So in this story, the woodsman saves Little Red Riding Hood and Granny. And Red Riding Hood is smart, and so is Granny. In this story, Red Riding Hood and Granny are not smart, and they get eaten. So, what you're going to do is you're going to figure out who told the truth. Now, remember what I told you about point of view. Red Riding Hood may see things differently, and the wolf may see things differently. So we all see things differently, but which story do you think is true? Do you think Red Riding Hood is true, or do you think is telling the truth, or do you think the wolf is telling the truth? You can pick either. You don't have to pick Red Riding Hood because, that's the story I always heard, and I know she's telling the truth. You don't have to pick the wolf because, I like that story because the wolf had a deep voice. Whichever one you pick, there is no wrong answer. So you can say, I think Red Riding Hood told the truth. Or you can say, I think the wolf told the truth. So you would put Red Riding Hood here or the wolf here. You could only pick one. You can't pick the Red Riding Hood and the wolf because these two stories are very different. So, who told the truth? Red Riding Hood or the wolf? I think blank told the wolf. So I think blank told the truth because why do you think they told the truth? So I'm going to tell you what I think, okay? I can say I think the wolf told the truth because because wolves because a wolf would probably eat a little girl and a granny. That's what I think. And because it makes sense that he would eat Little Red Riding Hood because she looks like an apple. So I think the wolf is telling the truth. Or you can maybe say, I think Red Riding Hood is telling the truth because she sounded smart and she was using her eyes and her ears and saying, he doesn't sound or look like Granny. So I know that Red Riding Hood is telling the truth. You can think of it either way. Just pick one side. So pick Red Riding Hood or the wolf. Pick who is telling the truth. And then say, blank told the truth, but why? Why do you think they're telling the truth, okay? So you're going to write an opinion about which Red Riding Hood story do you believe. So do you believe this story or do you believe this story? There's no right or wrong answer. If you pick this story, great. Just write your sentence. If you pick this story, great. Write your sentence though. So remember to please, please, please write your sentence and always add this because tells me why they told the truth. You always have to explain yourself, okay? All right. So that is it for today. If you want to know any of the plans we have for this week, we have a fun video here called Mindfulness. If you want to click on this, you totally can. It's just a fun little Class Dojo video. I did not make it, but it's a fun video for you. And please remember to check Class Dojo in the morning and in the night. And if you miss a video or you miss a day, don't worry about it. You can always go back and watch it on YouTube, okay? All right, that is the end of our lesson for today. Have a great day and happy Monday. All right, bye, my friends.